Eric Swalwell running for governor of California. Rob Bonta spending a little bit too much money on legal fees related to the corruption in Oakland and its mayor. We have DOJ jumping into the Prop 50 fight. There is so much to get to, including a federal case regarding transgenderism and school parental notifications. All that and more on this episode of the California Underground, starting right now. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the California Underground. I'm your host, Phil. Like I said, we have a ton of stuff to get to. 4 stories tonight. Usually we try and cover as much as possible. 3 at best, but we got so much stuff, so much news that we have to get to. But before we get started, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, like, share, follow. All of that stuff helps with the algorithm. And as always, with me, my trusted co-host, the best, the fastest researcher in the West, back from her illness. Good to see you again, Camille. How are you? Welcome back.
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you. Gosh, tonight feels so wonky, if that's even the proper word, because quite literally right before we hopped on, there was an update to one of our stories, an update as in within a minute of hopping on.
Yeah,
So I apologize in advance if all of a sudden we just lose it. We're not going to lose it.
we're just going to absolutely
Anyway,
go
how are
wild.
you?
I'm good. We have a lot to get to tonight, so let's just jump right into it. Let me pull up this story. Hold on one second. It looks like one of Trump's favorite foes to go after, Eric Swalwell, is considering running for governor of California. And it looks like it's imminent. There was a story in Politico where they had put up a donation site. I'm not going to read the whole story because this is basically the story, is that there was a donation site that was put up on Sunday and then they quickly took it down. But people were like, whoa, wait a second. What's that donation site? And they picked up on it really quickly. So the rumor is that he is about ready to jump in. Now, keep in mind, let's keep a track of the players who are in, who are not, because it seems like it's constantly changing all the time. So we have so far the big name players on the Democratic side. We have Katie Porter is still in, Xavier Becerra is still in, Antonio Villaraigosa is still in, Tony Thurman. I don't know if you'd consider him a big name. He's pulling like 2%. Who cares? Betty Yee, is she in there as well? The lieutenant governor, she dropped out because she got literally no traction and no one knows how to pronounce her name. And then on the Republican side, we have the 2 big names, which are Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco. Alex Padilla out. He's not running. He said he's going to stay in Senate. Kamala Harris, Queen of Cringe, is out. She is not running. So, that's the whole list right now. And there's also the rumored, in addition to Eric Swalwell, the rumors are that Rick Caruso is also thinking about running and maybe jumping in. There's also, I saw this, that Rob Bonta might be going back on his claim that he is not planning on running, so he may jump in. There is a lot to get to in this story. First off, welcome to everybody in the chat. Thanks for tuning in live. Wherever you are, let us know where you're tuning in. Love seeing everybody in the chat staying active. We got a lot of stuff to cover. But Swalwell's having some trouble in D.C. before he runs for governor. Let's get to that video real quick, and then I want to get your thoughts on both the story and Eric Swalwell running for governor. So let's watch this video real quick.
All right, we're going to begin this hour with another likely criminal investigation of a prominent critic of President Trump. This time it's Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell of California. He faces a Justice Department probe. It was announced on the very same day that lawyers for 2 other Trump critics were back in court arguing their criminal indictments should be dismissed. Scott McFarland is covering it all for us, as he has for a while now. Scott, good morning.
Hey, Tony, good morning. A Trump administration housing official is making the same type of allegation against Congressman Swalwell that the administration has made against other political critics of the president. questioning whether the California Democrat engaged in fraud in securing a home mortgage in Washington, D.C., and they have formally asked the Department of Justice to investigate it. Swalwell, who served as an impeachment manager against Trump in his first term, denied any wrongdoing, and he blasted the accusations as politically motivated, saying, "The only thing I'm surprised about is that it took him this long to come after me." It's common for members of Congress to have two homes, but what's not common and raises the question of political targeting is for housing officials to pull mortgage records and refer them for federal investigation. A recommendation for a prosecution does not mean Swalwell will be prosecuted, but this is the same type of allegation the administration has made against another impeachment manager. That man, Senator Adam Schiff of California, who's currently under investigation, as well as New York Attorney General Letitia James, who was charged last month and had previously sued Trump for fraud. Both have denied any wrongdoing, Gail.
Yeah, to be continued for sure. So, Scott, I know you were in the courthouse yesterday. That's when the New York Attorney General's defense lawyers then asked the judge to throw out the case against her. So where does that stand with
both
Letitia?
Letitia James and former FBI Director James Comey, both of whom are facing federal charges, both of whom have pleaded not guilty, argued to get their cases dismissed Thursday. They say the prosecutor who secured each of their indictments was not lawfully appointed. That prosecutor is former White House aide Lindsay Halligan. She was given the role after the U.S. attorney in Virginia declined to move ahead with the cases against Comey and James and was ousted. The judge said she'll make a ruling on whether to dismiss those cases by Thanksgiving.
Well, Thanksgiving is...
All right. So
That's a lot.
It seems to be a common pattern with a lot of these politicians. I'm sure a lot of politicians do this, claiming one as their primary residence and the other. Regardless, this seems to be a trend with like Adam Schiff, Letitia James. Is it payback from Trump that like all the people who vowed to go after him are now facing these mortgage issues? I mean, if they did do something wrong, then yes, the DOJ should look into it because it is a federal issue if you're claiming different places and mortgage fraud and all that. There is a little bit of a trend, but doesn't mean these people aren't necessarily not sketchy. So he's already facing some troubles. Doesn't mean indictment. It means that he's being referred to the DOJ. They're trying to get off on a technicality because of a prosecutor wasn't properly admitted or something or appointed like that. I don't know. It's always a technicality. Whew. With that said, what are your thoughts, one, on Eric Swalwell running for governor, and two, this mortgage fraud case? Do you think it's political retribution, or do you think all these politicians are just shady as hell? That's a lot to get to.
That was a lot of questions, but let's see. Okay, so I have read that he is a little more moderate than Katie Porter, and so that kind of scares me in the sense that it was looking like we might come down to the top two being Bianco and Hilton, and that would have been pretty exciting in my opinion. So now he might be coveted, and people are going to probably get behind him. The Democrats at least would be like, "Oh, good, we have someone," because they'll support Katie Porter if someone else better doesn't jump in. They'll just stand by Katie Porter regardless of mashed potatoes and her temper and all that. But so then. Yeah, him jumping in, like I said, he seems a little more moderate, but who knows? Once they get these high positions, it's like, who knows what they'll do? I don't know that much about him. I know he was city council in that area, and he's been in Congress for quite some time, and he was able to beat an incumbent who had been there for 40 years. 40 years, which we talked about 2 weeks ago. These people, term limits, oh my gosh, no, you need to retire. So I actually give him kudos for that. Yay for coming in and ousting someone who's been there far too long. Doesn't mean I stand by his policies or anything like that. So that part, corrupt politicians, yeah, I'm of the belief at this point there are pretty much 99% of them are corrupt, regardless of which side, right or left. Same coin, two sides is kind of my opinion. Being involved in politics and getting to know politicians, there's some that I still stand by and applaud and love and support, and there's others that I'm just so disenchanted by, and things that I've seen I'm like, not even, it's not even anything crazy or heavy. It's just that you see somebody get up and preach about something and like, these are my goals, these are my morals, these are my beliefs. And then you see them act the opposite in person. And it's just like, whatever, you're a
Mhm.
liar. Like, and I'm at a point where I'm so over it. I'm sorry. And maybe it's just today or this week. Like, I'm just like, even on social media, I don't even want to get on social media because I'm like, everybody is crazy. Everybody's insane. Waking up in 4 years. I don't know. That's kind of a lot. And
Mhm.
I'm not like leaving politics. I'm not leaving California. I'm not trying to be negative, even though I'm being very negative. I'm not trying to say don't bother. It's still important. Um, is Trump just kind of going after people who went after him? Because I do question that. And I know we're gonna get like people are gonna so disagree with me on saying that, but I would like to see is are they checking out any Republicans? Because again, these are normal people who enter politics and somehow get rich while they're in Congress, and then they can afford these second residence in DC. That's not cheap,
Mhm.
especially our California representatives who California is so not cheap. And so for them to have these second residences, you're like, how are you able to even afford your first one, let alone a second one in DC where it's very expensive too? So um are they doing it for fraudulent reasons, or are they doing it because they are there, they're working there several months out of the year and they need to be able to afford a place to live, or they're going to have to stay in hotels every night, or like bunk with somebody else, which I've heard a lot of them do. Um, I because we're only seeing Trump go after Democrats right now, that's where I do have to question: is it just like a retribution thing? Because there's what 435 House representatives, and I feel like maybe they all need to be checked into. Whoever owns a residence, maybe we need to start looking. I don't know.
Yeah.
That was a lot. I'm sorry.
No, it is a lot to, no pun intended, swallow in just this news story. I think he sees an opening because of Katie Porter's disastrous collapse in the polls. I think I talked about this last week and how she's collapsed, and Chad Bianco is now like in the head. Like the polls are the 13%. And actually, I joke the one politician who's winning is undecided because 43% of Californians are completely undecided, which is reasonable right now because we're so far out. There's not many nerds outside of the people who are watching the show and you and me who care about California politics enough to worry about who's coming up next year. Like next year is so far away from now. A lot of like most normal Californians are like, I don't know. I'll just wait until someone gets picked and then I'll go with that
Right.
person. So I think he sees that opening of, well, Katie Porter's collapsing. She was supposed to be sort of the hand-picked Democrat or the Democrat du jour, and maybe he's coming in as the moderate, which is terrifying to think that Swalwell's the moderate. Um, so it makes sense for him. He doesn't have to vacate his position in the House if he runs for governor. He can still keep doing it, and that's a pretty good gig too. But Eric Swalwell, if nothing else, the one thing I get from Eric Swalwell is he thinks he's like this like cool machismo kind of guy. Like he thinks like he's cooler than he really is. And he's like one of those people that like they try too hard to be cool and it comes off as like really, really cringe. We used to do this like cringe moment of the week. This moment probably could have qualified for cringe moment of the week. I'm going to play a little clip right now, and I'm not sure what the message of this is. If anybody in the chat wants to let me know what he's trying to convey, by all means, but I am flabbergasted. I have no idea what he's trying to prove here.
Now, we've already checked in on crazy Bernie Sanders. Let's see how Eric Swalwell is travelling. This is the man best known for dating a Chinese spy. He just released this bizarre video. See if you can understand what the Democrats, what Eric is trying to achieve here.
Hey, Congressman,
Trying to help you?
what the is up with Trump always chickening out on tariffs?
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Taco? I don't get it. I honestly don't. I mean, we follow a lot of politics. I'm not sure what the taco reference was.
I I don't.
We're both just
Are
so
you there?
flabbergasted. We're like speechless as to like what he was trying to prove there. But again, this is like Eric Swalwell trying to be like super cool and like with it. And the Democrats have had like this really bad problem of they were the cool party, I guess, when it was like Barack Obama, they were like the cool party. They kind of had a grip on culture and stuff like that. And now it seems like they're trying to catch up to trends. Remember when we did that one video? It was a cringe moment of the week where it was like all these different people were doing, it was some TikTok trend and they had like all these people trying to do it. And it was like just really cringe because when you're catching up to, oh no, it was that representative with the blue hair. She was trying to do it and she used like every Gen Z term imaginable. And you're like, cool, you killed it. Like you're not cool and you just ruined it. And you made all that really cringe. I feel like that's like what Eric Swalwell is doing. He just looks at a trend. He's like, oh, this would be really funny if I did it. And in reality, it just looks so like stupid and childish. What do you, I mean, I know you watched that and you're kind of speechless. Do you have any guess at what he was trying to convey with a taco?
I was trying to figure out if the taco part didn't matter, like it could have just been any food, and he was basically just like, I don't care, I'm out to lunch. I don't know though. I mean, it was
Yeah.
really that's reaching. I'm pulling at straws here. Paper straws.
Is it
This
like
podcast is illegal.
we don't talk about it, like taco about it? Oh, I don't.
Oh, I do appreciate a pun. Well done, Phil.
But
Um,
I just don't get it. Like I don't remember what the taco trend was
yeah,
and what that has to do with Trump chickening out
are
of
there
answering questions.
chat? What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Give us your best guesses.
I think the chat's probably as flabbergasted as we are about
I
this.
know.
Um, Obviously, we all know Eric Swalwell for his most famous clip, and we couldn't
Well,
go
that's
a
what I
show.
figured the taco was before the famous clip. Like,
Maybe,
is that the
maybe this was before. Maybe this is why he went viral for all the wrong reasons. Can't do a show on Eric Swalwell without showing this clip, and I apologize for my childish humor if I start laughing.
The evidence is uncontradicted that the president used taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election. And the complaint that
It gets
you
me
okay
every.
there, Phil?
It gets me every time. We're gonna watch it one more time. We're gonna watch it one more time.
Oh my god.
uncontradicted that the president used taxpayer dollars to ask the Ukrainians to help him cheat an election. And the
I told you I'm a child. Like farts are funny, and in this case, it's funnier because it was Eric Swalwell. And I did he. I guess he just thought like no one was going to hear that on national TV with Chris Matthews on Hardball. That was right after the State of the Union. So Eric Swalwell. Someone in the chat said, "We don't need him. Definitely don't need Swalwell stinking up California. No pun intended." I would disagree, Old Town Vallejo, who said that. I think you did intend that pun. I think you absolutely meant to. Someone said, watching from Alhambra, the taco reference is for Trump always chickens out. Oh, Trump always chickens out spells out to taco. That's way too much of a reference to, that's too much. Wow.
Good job.
Okay. Taco Bell.
I didn't know that. Like I hadn't heard that, but
Wow.
now I feel like I have seen people make taco references in regards to Trump, and so now I'm going back through all this in my head, like,
Oh, see, thank you. This is why we do this show live, so the chat can help us out with the show.
The entire show trajectory just changed.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben Foster, for in the chat telling us what that meant. Someone said full of hot air. It's a perfect example of Eric Swalwell, and if he runs for governor, he will be full of hot air. So, any other final thoughts on Eric Swalwell before we go to our next story?
I'm good. You played that video twice. That was twice too much. So
That was twice too many. All right.
twice too many.
No, I would say it's twice is enough. Fart jokes
I
are
know you're
always
going to
funny.
watch that several times after the show. I already know this.
I will neither confirm nor deny whether I watched that 5 times before we hopped on tonight and laughed my ass off about it. All right, on to a more serious topic. There is a case going on down here in San Diego in federal court regarding parental notifications and parental rights. So if you remember back with Chino Valley, Sonia Shaw, she was on the show discussing the whole fight over parental notifications, transgenderism, whether someone changes their pronouns, do they have to alert the parents, do they not have to alert the parents? There's a whole legal fight. Long story short, this teacher, Mirabelli, sued saying, you can't force me to keep this a secret from people. She got in touch with the Thomas More Society, which is the lawyer society, which is a Catholic lawyer society. Thomas More is the patron saint of law, for those of you who do not know. So for us lawyers, Thomas More is a very important person. But the Thomas More Society and Paul Jonah sued, and they've been going back and forth. This case has been going on for a while, and just recently they were brought in. The state of California was reprimanded, and it looks like they're going to get sanctioned for hiding evidence from the judge in the case. Let me pull up this story right now. Hold on. You guys have no idea how many tabs I have open right now because the show is so jam-packed. All right. Let's see. This is from Just the News. Federal judge threatens to sanction California for misleading him in gender secrecy case. U.S. District Court Judge Roger Benitez. Benitez is also referred to as Saint Benitez down here because anything Second Amendment related, he is always striking down any infringements on the Second Amendment. Love Benitez. Very, very cool judge. Ordered State Attorney General Rob Bonta and the California Department of Education to show cause on why they should not be sanctioned for misleading Benitez, so he would remove them from the suit by teachers who allege their school district muzzled them and parents of gender incongruent children. The state defendant's motions to dismiss in opposition to the plaintiff's motion for summary judgment claimed that the California Department of Education had, quote, withdrawn and conclusively replaced a FAQ page that contained the challenge policies, which they claim was the only basis for being named defendants and thus made the case moot, Benitez wrote. However, evidence demonstrates that the CDE, California Department of Education, may have merely moved the challenge content of the FAQ page to a new required PRISM training module, as documented by plaintiffs' lawyers at the Thomas More Society, the judge said, ordering state defendants to explain their behavior November 17th in court. So that's coming up. Or no, it was last week. Coming up, right? It already happened. What day is it? I have no idea. Today's the 18th. Quote, from day one, officials from the local district all the way to the governor's mansion have tried to deflect responsibility, but have now been caught not only lying to California taxpayers, but attempting to mislead the court to escape accountability, Thomas More Society Executive Vice President Peter Breen said in a statement. So, basically, the state of California and Rob Bonta, who we're going to get to in a little bit, hid evidence and concealed a fact from this judge to further prove why they should be removed from the case. And now evidence came out that no, they didn't actually remove the policy as requested. It's now in this PRISM training. I know Amy Reichart has been doing a good job. She's been tweeting about this a lot, or ex-posting about this a lot, how there is now like a mandatory page when you go to public school, like they're requiring students to affirm or sign off on transgenderism and like accept the policies. So they haven't fully gotten rid of this, but the state of California basically told the judge, yes, we've gotten rid of this. Please let us out of this case. And Judge Benitez is pissed. There is a clip describing why they entered this lawsuit from the plaintiff and Paul Jonah. I want to take a quick watch of that really quickly. Gives everyone a better idea of the plaintiffs, what's going on. So we're going to watch that real quick.
Elizabeth, explain why, because of your school district, you've had to lie to parents.
Well, a policy was rolled out to all teachers and it required us to, when meeting and speaking with parents, to withhold critical information about their child's mental and emotional health, and specifically refer to that child by one set of names and pronouns in front of parents, and then during the school day, change to another name and another set of pronouns that parents were unaware of.
Right.
So basically, I was teaching this child to live a double life.
Man, oh man. So explain, and you've had a student or students in your class who this applies to. How did that make things challenging for you?
Well, it was tricky. It was confusing. A teacher is a very busy person. And in addition to my roster, I was supposed to memorize names and various unique pronouns for a number of students. This is becoming a fad, especially with young girls, and empirical science has proven that. So I had no less than 7 girls that wanted different names than my roster, variety of interesting pronouns like they or zir and so forth. It's very difficult for me to remember that in a busy, hectic, moving environment.
Right, no kidding. And then I would imagine you would get in trouble if you didn't use the right pronoun that they wanted, and it would just simply be by accident. The governor's office did put out a statement. It said, federal law is clear that the governor is not a proper party in this case, and we will be moving to have the governor dismissed in short order. But it sounds like, Paul, the judge ordered the AG and the governor in on this case as well, right?
The court, excuse me, the court ordered them to be named as defendants. The school district pointed to the state and said, the state is the source of this policy. And we've had the governor and the attorney general sort of defying the court's order from a distance, and now they're roped in directly under the court's jurisdiction.
And Paul, ultimately, you guys are involved because this is a chance to, once and for all, end this kind of policy, right?
Absolutely. The court already issued a groundbreaking preliminary injunction ruling last September, essentially blocking the policy under the First Amendment and also holding that it violates parents' rights. So I think the governor and the attorney general know exactly what's at stake. This is, for whatever reason, this has been a top priority for the state of California in enforcing these gender secrecy policies. And this case presents the best opportunity to sort of undo that in California and throughout the country.
Well, Elizabeth, thank you very much for telling us about your challenging circumstances. I don't think anybody had.
There's a lot going on here, and we're trying to like break it down for everybody who doesn't really know the story, hasn't been following. Paul Jonas is right in that because Chino Valley came up with their parental notification, if you remember back as 2024, 2023, I think, was this whole fight about parental notification. It seems like maybe it was so long ago. The state basically stepped in and, being the uber woke progressive warriors that they are, were so concerned about parental notifications and making sure that they forced this basically on all schools. And we talked about this extensively about how Sacramento and their top-down philosophy won't allow school boards of duly elected school board members based on the representatives, the people who live in those areas, say, hey, we don't want our school to do this. All of a sudden, the state came roaring in. Gavin Newsom came in. Rob Bonta came in. Tony Thurmond came in. They all were like, this is the policy. So that's why the state of California sort of got involved as defendants. I want to show, this is from Michael Knowles, obviously a fellow Catholic who's also following the Thomas More Society. He's talking about it, so it's getting a lot of play. The 6-part training program, PRISM, which has been disabled, collaborated with some of the worst LGBT organizations in the country. The Trevor Project, known for running adult child chat rooms with fetish content. So here are the people who, these are the groups that were in favor of it. SDSU, come on SDSU, let's go Aztecs. Let's get our stuff together here. It wouldn't be USD though, because they're a Catholic organization. School staff must respect students' right to privacy and may not affirmatively disclose a student's LGBTQ plus status to others without the student's permission, have a right to privacy. So, long story short, they're fighting this out in federal court. The plaintiff there, Mirabelli, the teacher, is saying this is a violation of her freedom of speech, freedom of religion, also equal protection clause, so it's in federal court. California lied. They tried to say, let us out of it. They were hiding stuff. Rob Bonta and the attorney general hid that from them. Judge Benitez is pissed. But this is a case that definitely needs more attention. With that, what are your thoughts on this entire lawsuit and what the state is doing? I know I keep loading you with like the big questions at the end to cover everything, but I need to take
That's
a break.
okay.
And take a
No,
sip of
you
water.
know, I had to read the article twice and then literally put it into chat, like, well, Grok. I put it into Grok and I was like, please explain this to me. Cause I was so like, I didn't fully understand what's going on here. And that video was actually really helpful. And I have 3 daughters, and that teacher, I tried to imagine her trying to keep everything straight of like, okay, this is Ashley during, or like, not Ashley, but like if it's a girl, so her given name that her parents gave her on her birth certificate, she's Ashley, but now she wants to be Ashton, and she, is Zier or whatever, like that's her pronouns. And then all of a sudden she's supposed to, so 5 days a week, this is Ashton, and then she sits down with the parents and slips up and it's like, well, Ashton, and then she could get in trouble for that. With my 3 girls, like even just today, I'm always saying the wrong names. Like I was literally looking at my daughter Addison, and I hollered for one of my other daughters, but I hollered Addison, and she's like right there, like right in front of me, and I'm like, wrong kid. Like I do this every day because I have 3 girls that the names just slip up. I can't imagine this teacher with probably 30, 35 students, and then she said these 7, girls that are identifying as who knows what day to day, and then she's supposed to keep it straight during the day and then sit down with the parents and say something totally different. How can you push that on someone, and then because it's law and whatever, those bills were passed, and then all of a sudden the school, the state, anybody could go after her for messing up, which I realize that's not exactly what happened. I'm just saying, how dare we put that pressure on these teachers? That is so much. And again, which we've extensively spoken about, but how dare we hide these things from parents?
Yeah, it seems pretty simple that teachers shouldn't be hiding anything from parents, and that if this is an issue, parents should know about it. Like parents should have an idea of what's going on with their kids. It's weird and creepy to think that teachers know something about children, especially in this context of like gender and sexual identity. Like it just seems weird that they know it and the parents don't know it. This is a fight, and as you get 2 years ago, it was probably started. I think it started, and it's still going on. It's still a big fight. This lawsuit is still going on, so it's being fought out here down in Southern District, right here in San Diego. But California tried to be a little sneaky about it, a little slippery about it, and it is. I don't. Teachers already do like enough as it is. They have so much on their plate, and then just adding on like, oh, okay, now on top of that, you have to be like their secret keeper. Like you have to keep these secrets from their parents. I feel bad for the teachers. I feel bad for teachers like this Mirabelli, who they just want to go in and teach. They want to help kids learn and hopefully get on for a good education, get on with life. And now they're being taught like you, or trained or told you have to do this. It's just mind-boggling. And California is just so odd about the fact that they're forcing literally every school district in the entire state of 58 counties. Nope, you have to listen to this. Every school district, you have to do it this way. Even if your school board of people that voted in that area, in that school district, voted for these people, and it's 100% conservative or something, and they say, no, we don't want this, we don't want to do this. California is forcing it down your throat anyway, but that's Sacramento, and their top-down philosophy is everything has to come from the king himself up in Sacramento. You can't can't oppose the state on anything like this. So we'll see if there's any update on the sanctions and whether California gets sanctioned pretty badly or pretty harshly. I imagine Benitez is, if he's pissed, he's probably going to drop the hammer on the state. He's definitely no friend of the state of California and Gavin Newsom and Rob Bonta. I think Gavin Newsom called him out once and said he was like a Trump crazed, even though he wasn't appointed by Trump, that he was a Trump crazed judge who wants to see kids die because he's always overturning a lot of Second Amendment stuff. Basically, anything Second Amendment goes to Judge Benitez. People, if there's, what was the last one? That's SB, crap, now I can't remember. I think it's SB 9 or something. The one where they're trying to overturn like carry and conceal, magazine capacity, assault rifles, all that stuff. They're trying to like overturn or take away from people. It always goes to Judge Benitez, and he always overturns it because that's just who he is. He's a badass like that. Any final? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Sorry.
You do have final thoughts.
So because the point of that, this particular lawsuit, what we're discussing is that the state of California maybe went and hid something as the defense of trying to get Bonta and who else was it off to drop them from the suit. If you have to go and hide stuff, maybe your policy isn't a good idea. I mean, really.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's not like a really like deep thought, but just to wrap up what that specific lawsuit was about, or the specific topic was about, is like they're hiding stuff to try to get somebody dropped as a defendant, and it's like you only just made yourself look far more guilty. This is creepy. This is weird.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're so loud and proud about it and you want to force it on everybody, why are you hiding it and trying to pretend like it's not happening? They both are like, they're trying to play both sides of it, where they're like, oh, we're very loud and proud and we stand up for transgenders and LGBTQ plus I, whatever, the whole spectrum of the rainbow. And then when it comes down to like, oh, you're in court. Oh, no, we're just going to hide it and like shovel it off to something else. And no, it's not really happening. I don't know what you're talking about. This is all just false. Like, this is just fake news. This isn't really happening. No, I think it's a good point that they're both proud of it, but they're also hiding it. And we're going to, the lawsuit still has a while to go, but it is interesting that California tried to pull these shenanigans and these shady tactics to get out of the lawsuit, even though we all know California is behind this, and Sacramento is definitely behind this, and the California Department of Education, which I know you're a homeschool mom, just a case for private school and homeschooling. You don't have to worry about this crap when you send your kids to private school and homeschool and all that stuff. All right. Next story. This is probably one of the more, this is the continuing saga of Prop 50. I read this whole complaint because I'm a nerd like this. I read it last night and made my highlights. I'm not going to bore everybody with the entirety of what is going on here. If you don't know the backstory, basically the day after Prop 50 won in a landslide, the California GOP filed a federal lawsuit saying that these districts are unconstitutional, they're gerrymandered. I haven't read their complaint, but the DOJ stepped in just a couple days ago. So now you got the federal government, and the whole weight of the Department of Justice is stepping in. The Civil Rights Division is stepping in going, we also believe that this is a huge violation of several things in the Constitution. I read their complaint, and I'm usually try to give it to you guys. Well, we always like to give it to you honestly. So if it's like a stinker of a complaint, I'm like, this sucks, like there's nothing to this, I would absolutely tell you, but this actually has good arguments. And I read it and I was like, okay, I think this actually does have some teeth, that California went a little too far. All right, I'm going to show a little bit of it for you. If you have any questions, anybody in the chat have any questions generally about anything we've talked about or in general, let us know in the chat, or about what I'm about to discuss. Camille as well. I know you always like to ask questions. So if you have questions, like, can you explain this again? Let me know. All right. So this is the official complaint. This is from the introduction. It said, basically, their whole basis is that racial gerrymandering is unconstitutional. So we'll start there. Racial gerrymandering is wholly and right out in the open unconstitutional. You can't do racial gerrymandering. Now, the Democrats, who all of them are as thick as thieves, Paul Mitchell, who we've brought up on this show, he is married to Jody Hicks, who is the head of the Planned Parenthood Political Action Committee, gives you any idea of where they lean. Paul Mitchell redrew the maps, and he got a little too braggadocious about how he's going to do it. I guess he didn't think this was going to come back to bite him in the ass. So the complaint opens up about how it wasn't about partisanship, but about race. It says, quote, the first thing that map drawer Paul Mitchell did in drawing the new map, the number one thing that he first started talking about was to create a new majority minority Latino district. And legislators focused not on the purported vote dilution of Democrats elsewhere in the country, but on the supposed dilution of the voting power of racial groups in other states. They feared that a Latino voice in Texas is worth 1/3 of the representation as a white voice, that Texas would slide back to the days of black codes and Jim Crow. I mean, that's a little out there. That's a little extreme to say that. And that Texas legislators would silence the voices of Latino voters. Proposition 50 would serve as a shield against racist maps, they told each other, so that minorities in California could stand up and be counted. The end result is a map that manipulates district lines in the name of bolstering the voting power of Hispanic Californians because of their race. They go on to talk about, although partisan gerrymanders lie, quote, beyond the reach of the federal courts, racial gerrymanders are unconstitutional. States generally may not use race as a predominant criterion in achieving partisan goals. And then it goes on to talk about when this happens, when they find racial gerrymandering, it has to pass what in federal law is called the strict scrutiny standard. And the strict scrutiny, so when judges approach a case, there's different standards of is the law unconstitutional or not? There's different levels to determine. The strict scrutiny test is the hardest test to pass. It is almost impossible to pass because it is a compelling state interest. And the compelling state interest is always national security. Basically, we're under attack. We need to preserve the country. This is why we have to kind of infringe on your constitutional rights. I don't think Prop 50 meets that burden of we're doing this for national security or compelling state interest. So already the strict scrutiny standard already puts California at a disadvantage. It goes on to say, when a state assigns voters on the basis of race, it engages in the offensive and demeaning assumption that voters of a particular race, because of their race, think alike, share the same political interests, and will prefer the same candidates at the polls. I've said this before. We both said this before. Something about Democrats and leftists, they went so hard on everything is race-based. Everything has to be based on minorities and race-based. They've now seen everybody as blocks of different races and colors, and they don't see people as individuals. And they now just think like, well, you're Hispanic, so you vote with Democrats. No, I know there are plenty of Hispanics who voted for Trump. They're Republican that are very conservative. So to assume based on race that you are a monolith who believes one thing over the other, call me crazy, but I find that's really racist to do so. But Democrats do it. They just seem to think if you're part of a certain race, you're going to vote with us. You agree? You think that's racist to think that just because you're a certain race, you're going to vote for one party or the other?
That absolutely is racist. To define anybody because they are something, therefore they are this, that's racist.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's almost like they forgot like what Martin Luther King said. Not the color of your skin, but the content of your character, not the color of your skin.
Yeah.
Then it goes on to say, Latino communities are not uniform constituency. They differ significantly across urban, suburban, and rural regions in terms of socioeconomic status, citizenship rates, linguistic backgrounds, and political participation. Just talking about how you can't look at a race as one thing. And then it goes on to talk about, so their argument could be that Hispanics don't have enough of a say in California. when in reality, I think they put in the number. It was like 30, for example. I'm trying to see what it was. It's something like, as a plurality, Hispanics actually make up the largest voting bloc in California. So out of all the minorities, you have, white voters, Hispanic voters, Asian voters, black voters. A plurality is actually Hispanic. So actually the largest ethnic group in California, Hispanics. So to say we need to create more because Hispanics are not heard is kind of a ridiculous statement, because they are the largest ethnic group in California, at least for voting purposes. And then they go on to talk about how several Hispanic politicians have beaten white candidates. So obviously that's not an issue. Alex Padilla beat Mark Mauser. Xavier Becerra beat Stephen Bailey. And then Ricardo Lara beat Steve Poizner. So if your argument is Hispanics don't have enough representation and we need to amplify their voice, well, that doesn't make any sense, because a lot of these big statewide offices are being won by Hispanics. And then I goes on to say, this is just more stuff. This is more of what Paul Mitchell said. The professed purpose for the new map was to negate the 5 Republican seats drawn by Texas, adding up to 5 Democrat seats. And we're going to get into some breaking news about Texas in a second, and the U.S. House of Representatives. However, in a presentation regarding the draft maps, Paul Mitchell stated the number one thing that he first started thinking about was drawing a replacement Latino majority minority district in the middle of Los Angeles. So already Paul Mitchell, who redrew the maps, is openly admitting that he's drawing these maps based on race. And here's a cute little tweet being a little bit too presumptuous. If you're keeping track at home, here's some clappy emoji. Proposed Prop 50 will further increase Latino voting power. Likely increase Asian American voting power. Yes, question. Question to the person in the front. You had a question?
Well, you keep cutting out, and I don't know if that's happening for the audience as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is anybody losing me in the chat? But did you have a question, or are you just letting me know that I'm cutting out?
I'm letting you know you're cutting out. I don't have a question yet. I may probably have 1,000 questions. Sorry. I don't know if that's happening for everyone else.
Okay. If anyone in the chat is, let me know that if I'm cutting in or out. So as I was saying, this tweet by Paul Mitchell, if you're keeping track at home, here's all the things they said: increase Latino voting power, Asian American voting power, Latino influence district, but otherwise replicates the status quo. So basically, he's admitting this wasn't a one-off comment where he said, we're going to do this because of increasing Latino representation. He's literally bragging about it on X, that he's redrawing the maps based on racial districting. So to end the... What's that?
I said, oops.
Oops. Yeah, probably don't brag about that online, Mr. Mitchell. So then at the end of the day, this is what they are alleging. That is a violation because it's racial gerrymandering. Declare Prop 50 was adopted for the purpose of denying or abridging the rights to vote on account of race or color in violation of Section 2, which we've talked about. All these stories tonight, and if I sound like I'm out of breath, is because there's like 4 layers deep of all of these stories. Like, this is like the continuation of a lot of stories going on. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is now up in front of the Supreme Court for them to decide whether that's unconstitutional and whether that's going to be struck down. So we may have a whole new issue if the Supreme Court strikes that down regarding racial gerrymandering and majority minority districts. So, with that.
I didn't even read all that, and I feel the same. Like, take a deep breath.
Yeah, it's a lot. I hope I got through it not too fast, but enough that people understand. And my personal opinion is, yeah, if you have the guy who's drawing the maps out there saying it's going to be racial gerrymandering, we're doing this based on race, and that's unconstitutional, that's not a good look for how these maps were drawn. And the federal court may step in and go, yeah, you kind of went a little too hard into the racial gerrymandering area, and you can't do this. So I'll let you say your thoughts because I need to take a sip of water now.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of thoughts on this, or I suppose I do. It is a lot, like you said, and because we know there's this Supreme Court case, there's this case, and then if these things do come to pass, then what does happen for California? And of course, we've got the next breaking news that you're going to break into, which is just even more on top of this chaos already. We're just, California is like drowning, and we're throwing babies to California to save while they're drowning. And so it's like, yeah, I know. I'll let you get into the next part of this because I know we're covering a lot. So
we're covering a lot. We still got one more story to hit. All right. So this came out literally today. Breaking: a panel of federal judges has enjoined Texas from using its redrawn congressional maps, ordering the state to use its 2021 boundaries. To which I replied, so based on California Democrats' logic, doesn't that mean we don't need Prop 50 anymore? Because go in the Wayback Machine, when Prop 50 was first written and first proposed, there was language that they wouldn't go through with Prop 50 if California or if Texas didn't go through with their redistricting. That was the original language.
Right.
They took that out quietly because I guess they were like, hell, let's just go for it anyway. Like if we can get this, let's go for it. This is the actual ballot language from Prop 50. It says, Section 4B, in response to the congressional redistricting in Texas in 2025 and notwithstanding any other provision, blah, 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 to redistrict. So if this is in response to Texas and Texas is no longer redistricting, I mean, wouldn't it make sense that you no longer need Prop 50 because it's all evened out anyway? Texas isn't gaining any more seats, but now you're gaining more seats in California at the expense of voters and their rights and all that. So what say you, California Democrats? Now I think it's a power grab for them. But it is interesting that because Texas isn't doing its redistricting, now we're still doing our redistricting. But the reason we were doing redistricting is no longer an issue. That's all over. I don't know. It's so confusing, and it's almost like whiplash because it's like, what are we doing here? Like now California is racially drawing these maps. They're literally doing it just to get more power and to shove more Democrats into the House. So now California is doing the literal thing that they were accusing Texas of, which is redistricting their maps to get more representatives into Congress. Texas is no longer redistricting. So now it's just California is the only state that's doing this to change it all up and get more people in. So they are now, I guess it's like what do they say in the Dark Knight? You either live to be a hero or you die a hero, or you live long enough to be a villain. Right now, California is the villain because they've done this long enough that they are now redistricting and adding seats and cheating and all that stuff. What are your thoughts? Am I still cutting out on your end? Or did I lose you? I think I may have lost her. But anyway, I'm going to keep talking. If I come back, let me know. So that's basically the lay of the land right now is Texas is not redistricting. The DOJ is fighting here in California. Federal lawsuit. We'll see what happens. But I think it actually does have a good shot with this racial gerrymandering and this argument that is unconstitutional. And if you have Paul Mitchell, who is openly admitting that it is unconstitutional or that he's doing it on a racial basis, then we'll see where it goes. And this could be an absolute mess going forward into 2026, where we have no idea what districts are going to be in place and what districts aren't. What if there's a preliminary injunction from the federal court that says, okay, you can't put in these new maps and you can't redistrict? And then all of a sudden, this happened. It's just going to be an absolute mess in 2026. It looks like Camille froze. So we're going to keep plowing along. If you're in the chat, let me know how it's going. Oh, looks like we just lost her. So if you're in the chat, let me know your thoughts as well. So I'm going to move on to the next story regarding this Rob Bonta story. And Rob Bonta has been found to have used $500,000 cash from his campaign funds for legal fees. And let's pull this up real quick. So this is, he spent $500,000 cash from his own campaign funds for a law firm called Wilson, Sonsini, Goodrich, and Rosati, PC, Los Angeles. That's a professional corporation up in Los Angeles. That's a lot of money. Supposedly, someone said she's froyo. So that's Camille. Camille, hopefully she's coming back because we want to finish out the show strong. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Everyone, wherever you are, Central Valley, Sacramento, LA. I see all you people in the chat. That's awesome. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in on this rainy night. So he was accused of spending $500,000 from his campaign funds, which is true. He did do that for these attorneys. Now, we have to go back in time because there was a story with the Oakland mayor who was accused and arrested, actually, of corruption. That's why she was removed from office. She had to step down for all these issues with bribery and corruption and all of that. And Rob Bonta is involved because he was connected to the people who were, hold on, I think we're getting a call. Is this, I thought we were getting a call. Thought Camille was coming back for a second. So trying to catch my breath here. Wait, hold on. I think we got Camille back. I think so. Let's see if she comes back. Bay Area represent. Bay Area is not representing in the right way right now. I'm just going to say that right now. It's with Oakland is what we're talking about. So the Sheng Thao, who was the mayor of Oakland, she was accused of corruption. And there was a family, the Duong family, who is a construction family, and they had done a lot of bribery and corruption with public officials, basically giving them money to do stuff. Camille's back. Hi, Camille. We were talking about Rob Bonta now. We moved on to the next story. Can you still hear me? Are you there?
I'm here. I wasn't here.
I think it was on your end. Everybody in the chat said you were frozen. So
you could all see me like looking, switching my internet.
Yes, I think someone said you were froyo. So anyway, we moved on to Rob Bonta's story. I was talking about how this all stems from the Oakland mayor, Sheng Thao, corruption, bribery, the Duong family. They were bribing people. Rob Bonta was in the middle of it because they gave Rob Bonta $155,000, which he then had to return after he found out that they were corrupt as hell. The Duong family has been like around for a while, and they finally got picked up by the feds over this. And now he spent $500,000 of his money. Camille went and found, this is the actual screenshot of his spending to Wilson, Sinisi, Goodrich, and Rosati. I went to go look them up because I was like, well, what does Wilson, Sinisi, Goodrich, and Rosati do? This is one of the things that they do. They do a whole bunch of things. But one of the things they do is white-collar crime. Experienced defense counsel. Litigators have experience defending clients facing numerous types of allegations, including fraud claims, price fixing, bid rigging, and antitrust, corruption, and bribery charges.
Interesting.
Corruption and bribery charges. That's the stuff that the Duong guys and Sheng Thao are likely going to jail for. Consumer fraud, anti-kickback, and whistleblower statute violations. Federal enforcement agency experience. Wilson Sinisi's white-collar defense attorneys have represented clients before all federal enforcement agencies, including DOJ, SEC, FTC, CFTC, I don't even know what that one is, IRS, and FINRA, as well as in conjunction with criminal probes led by various state attorney generals. It's funny, he is the attorney general. So they have experience in white collar crime defending people against these allegations. So Rob Bonta was basically saying when they found out he spent all this money, they questioned him on it. And they said, well, why did you spend so? Well, it was because I was representing myself and I was making sure that I had proper representation regarding everything that happened with Oakland and this investigation and this indictment. But I don't know. I guess it's rational to think you hire white collar crime defense attorneys if you're swept up in a federal investigation regarding corruption and bribery. But it's a lot of money. And he did
It's
have
a lot of money.
it's a lot of $500,000. I mean, look, I'm just going to say it as an attorney, you rack up $500,000 of fees. That is a lot of money. And this is not like, you can rack up hundreds of thousands of dollars if you go to trial. All the way through trial, you can rack up $200,000, $300,000 in fees because it costs a lot of money. $500,000 before anything has actually happened is a ton of money. Now,
Right, because he
supposedly,
wasn't technically accused, right? They just brought him in for questioning,
yes, he is
and
not
then he
part of the
lawyered
indictment.
up.
Right. Which I guess is smart. Like if you're being brought in by the feds, you want to lawyer up.
Yeah,
This
but
what
$500,000.
Those are some expensive attorneys. They better be the best damn attorneys in the world if they are $500,000 worth. Here was his excuse for spending. Has clarified it spent nearly $500,000 so he could have legal counsel as authorities asked him for information during a federal bribery investigation. His campaign says the use of the funds is absolutely proper. The story does not end there, though, because you sent me something quite literally like a couple minutes before. I'm going to pull this up really quick because we're going to have to screen share this. I didn't have a time to add this as an element to the show.
Yeah, no, I was literally while you were on the pre-show live, I was like, hey,
You're like,
update.
hey, why don't you add this to the show as well? This is from Ashley Zavala, who's been covering this story. California AG Rob Bonta's campaign faces more questions after spending what appears to be a historic amount of money on attorneys' fees amid a federal investigation. He was not a target of the investigation, but his campaign appears to be struggling to fully explain. And then she had another update, like, what was it, right after? So this was an hour ago. And that's why I said it's 9:03 right now. An hour ago, like this just happened, and this is the top news. Is it corruption? Is it wrong? I don't know. The FPPC has made no comment. They haven't said whether it's wrong or not, whether it's a violation of using his campaign funds. But it does beg the question, what the hell are you spending $500,000 on for campaign funds for legal fees? So it's very questionable. If anyone in the chat wants to somebody said $500,000 is life-changing money. It certainly is life-changing money. So he says, if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, pays attorneys for duck representation, yes. Somebody also said, also look up what the family owns the most water rights. This is from someone else talking about another issue. Sure seems like a lot of Democrats being caught with crimes. I see we investigate them all, or say we investigate them all. Newsom, Bass, Brandon Johnson, Eric Swalwell, mortgage fraud. There's a lot going on. So I will say this because he hasn't been indicted. It's not the subject of investigation. The FPPC has said has no comment. He says it's perfectly fine. You can do that because you can hire attorneys related to your campaign or anything like that. I guess because he took money for his campaign for attorney general and he was connected to these individuals. I guess that's the loose interpretation of that. But, and I leave this out, there's a big but. it's a lot of money, and we kind of want to know why did you spend so much money to hire attorneys in a case that you are not indicted in, or you're not the center of investigation? Does it go deeper? Are you more worried about what could possibly be coming down the pike regarding what could come out for you? I don't know. The story literally just broke today. So, or was it today or yesterday? It was literally yesterday this broke. It continues to change. It continues to update like by the hour. And on top of it, he is flip-flopping on whether or not he's going to run for governor. And I'm not sure this is a great way to launch himself into the gubernatorial race with some sketchy $500,000 payment to white-collar crime defense attorneys. Whew. With that said,
Wow.
we covered a lot tonight. So
Yes.
everyone got a lot of value for this podcast. I'm going to take a sip of water. I'm going to let you give your opinion on this because I've been talking a lot. I've been rambling a lot. Go ahead.
Well, so these payments were way back in February. They were all on the same date. Like, I think it was like February 3rd. He made several payments that totaled the nearly $500K. And there hasn't been any new payments since. So I feel like maybe nothing new has come to light. They haven't called him back in for anything, or he knew that things were going to come up. And so he just kind of fronted the $500K as like a lot
retainer.
of billable to be billed to, retainer hours. Because so that's all interesting to me. I really quickly want to go back because I dropped off. I'm so sorry, to the Prop 50 story, because I had a little bit of a conspiracy theory that I wanted to put on my tinfoil hat for.
Dropping
I
conspiracies.
think-
Okay.
So when when the language was quietly dropped about the language was supposed to be, if Texas does yada yada yada, then California is going to yada yada yada, and then they dropped that language and went forward with it. I believe Newsom may have gotten some insider info that they were going to, if Texas went through with it, that there was going to be this lawsuit based on, XYZ reasons of why they're filing this lawsuit. And so I think Newsom then quietly removed the language knowing this would happen, so that then if then Texas passed their gerrymandering and then the lawsuit was filed, then California, Newsom could say, well, we left it up to the people to vote and they voted. Just my little thought.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I mean, they have their ear to the ground, and he knew that this might have been coming. There might have been a good possibility. That's definitely not a radical conspiracy theory to think that this could have come down the pike and they weren't going to redistrict anyway. And this was just a huge power grab. So, I don't think that's a huge tinfoil hat. Maybe it's a tiny little tinfoil hat, to put it mildly. Someone asked, it was from a dormant campaign account. These candidates with their dormant campaign accounts are out of control. Like last week, it covered Xavier Becerra, $250,000. It was Daniel Williamson was funneling money from a dormant campaign account to herself, to her business, for consulting fees for I think it was a 2030. Like it was a 2030 campaign fund or something for Xavier Becerra. Then he went off to DC. And now you have Rob Bonta is using a dormant campaign fund to pay his legal fees. We might need to get a little bit of campaign finance reform of like what you can really use this money for. Because I don't think people give money to politicians for legal fees or for personal business expenses or anything like that. That's just me. I don't know. If I were giving money to a candidate, I don't want to look up and see that they used $500,000 of it for legal fees and really expensive lawyers. I mean, That's a ton of money.
That would be really disappointing. Kimberly Klasick.
Yeah, Kimberly Klasick. We've talked about her before. Other candidates who we will not mention. So with that said, that's our show. That's a lot of stuff we covered tonight. Thank you to everyone in the chat, wherever you are, staying dry, staying warm, hopefully from the rain. We covered a lot. I saw you. you have one more
Yeah,
thought?
I was gonna say join Telegram because we're trying to cover so much
Right.
because it's just getting crazy, and so we are sharing different kind of random stories. Like it's
Yes.
just we don't even have a rhyme or a reason. It's just like Phil and I both just kind of like we check the news constantly and we're like, this is an interesting one. Share your
Hmm.
thoughts. So
Yeah,
stuff that we wouldn't necessarily be able to get to on the podcast.
that is a perfect segue. If you were wondering what this little like thing right, it's hard to do. This little thing right here, this QR code, you can scan it with your phone, and it will take you to join the members only Telegram. We share a lot of stories, not always California stories. We share a lot of California stories. There's a lot of stories that come out through the week that Camille and I have been sharing, keeping you guys updated, like up to the minute. So stuff like literally comes out or breaks, we're sharing it with you, giving our thoughts. You can go in and comment. Oh, what's up, Iceman? How's it going? So we're posting there. Go to that QR code. It's $1.99 a month for the members only. We're going to be adding more benefits like members only lives, discounts on merchandise, all of that stuff, more members only perks. It's fun. And like Camille said, there's stuff that we've posted, like it's not California based, it's national politics. If you want to hear us talk about national politics, our thoughts on the Epstein files or Trump or I don't know, whatever's going on, like it doesn't have to be California based. Whatever we find interesting, we've just been posting and sharing our thoughts. And if you want to keep in touch all week long, between episodes, you can check that out. Also, I think I pinned the link if you're in YouTube in the chat, like at the top, so you can click up there as well. And that will take you to join. And we'd love to see you over there. So, any other final thoughts before we sign off for the night?
Nope. That was a lot. So
That was a lot. We covered a lot. Hopefully everyone understood everything we were talking about, and everyone got something out of this. And yeah, we'll be back next week, Tuesday before Thanksgiving. We'll be back Tuesday at 8 p.m. live. And the best thing you can do to support the show that is 100% free, that helps the show out, is you can make sure you subscribe, like, share, all that stuff helps with the algorithm, helps more people find us. Things have been going great on YouTube. A lot of new people have been finding us on YouTube. The show on YouTube has been great. Love seeing all you people in the chat joining us every week. That's also awesome. But the 100% free way that you can help with this show is share it with someone who you think would get a lot out of this for California politics and keep in the know. And we will see you on the next one. Later.